Hey, everybody, welcome to a special edition of What Drives Us. We don't have an episode number, so I'm a little out of sorts there. I'm used to saying it's episode blah, blah, blah for April 30th, 2020. It is April 30th, 2020, but we have an incredible show for you tonight, and I'm going to stop there and start introducing people so that we can get into it. Our man up in the Pacific Northwest, he is a Tesla fan, an EV advocate, and Mr. OEVA.org, Mr. Patrick Connor.
Hello from the sunny state of Oregon today.
How do you have more sun than I have?
I don't know, but I like it. Yeah, solar panels are cranking out those kilowatt hours right now.
I emailed Governor Newsom to take task with Oregon. And our friend, you've seen him on the show several times before. He's a fuel cell engineer and an alt energy activist. He is an amazing guy, Mr. Matthew Klippenstein.
Howdy. Also some sun up here in BC. I have also done a fair amount of work on EV infrastructure, just to like to be as technology agnostic as possible. Although I do admit that e-bikes are going to take over, so it's nice to be humble. So.
That's a fight we can have, because if you're saying that things with pedals are going to take over, no. Yeah, another time.
Sure.
But thank you for baiting me right at the beginning of the show, Matthew. I appreciate that so much. Patrick is very proud of you.
Yes, we have a long history of trolling Russell, so this is a good job.
Thank you. Our man from the Mid-Atlantic region, you know him from his Tesla Supercharger channel, Mr. Kacey Green.
Yes, I just got another video online right before the show.
Is it in 8K?
It destroyed my computer putting it in 8K. It took overnight to render, and then I realized I left a bit of personally identifying information out there, and had to go trim it out. And then it rendered the whole workday while I was working. It was just
8K? Nobody needs 8K supercharger videos, dude. Come on.
This one was a 8K self-stopping automobile video.
Oh, okay.
Hey, don't listen to Russell.
Well,
you do what you want to do.
Last and certainly not least, our special guest. You haven't seen him before, and maybe you've seen him other places, but you've never seen him on What Drives Us before. And I am super honored that he is here. His name is Lawrence Fossey. You might know him as Montana Skeptic. Mr. Fossey worked as a commercial trial lawyer for 30 years. He then managed a former client's portfolio for a decade. He writes about Tesla finances. You've seen him on Seeking Alpha and probably lots of other places. And famously or infamously, however you will, Elon Musk once phoned his boss trying to get him fired.
Yeah.
Now, he was a little concerned that he was walking into the Tesla fan lion's den. I think we've reassured him, but suffice to say, Lawrence, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you, Russell, and Kacey and Patrick and Matthew. I think I am in danger of being mesmerized by Patrick's spinning screw back there, but other than that, I'm fully focused and ready to engage.
Patrick has lots of good toys. It's really hard.
You got to keep it visually interesting, yeah.
I just have solar panels. It's really tedious. Well, Patrick, you have a list and I have a list, and we're going to let's start with yours and go down just some notes that we took. The whole point of this episode is to talk about the Tesla Q1s, the earnings call, the 10Q that was filed today. Yes, today. And some of the other associated stuff surrounding Tesla financials, because that's always a big deal in the quarterly. So, Patrick, I'm going to shut up.
Yeah, okay. I want to start by saying that this is not financial advice. You should do your own research, talk to your stock advisor, do whatever. Don't listen to a bunch of idiots on the internet, including this idiot. With that said, we're going to go over the shareholder letter. You can go find it yourself on ir.tesla.com and make your own assessments from that, but let's start with a couple of the highlights. And I want to be clear, my bias. I'm a Tesla shareholder, Tesla customer, solar panels and car, and I've got 3 Powerwalls on order, so completely biased toward Tesla. Let's just get that right out there. Okay, so headline number 1, Tesla was GAAP profitable. They and most analysts expected a loss. Q1 is generally a seasonally low quarter for the automotive industry as a whole, and they had several challenges in Q1. So congratulations for a great Q1. I think this is the first Q1 in which they've ever been profitable. So that was really cool to see. Their automotive, and if you guys want to comment on anything, just jump in whenever.
I do. I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
This is the first quarter they've been GAAP profitable, isn't it?
The first Q1 in which they've been GAAP profitable.
In 10 years as a public company, they've been GAAP profitable in 4 or 5 quarters. So.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I
But
thought
none
it
of
was
those were
non-GAAP.
Q1s.
Right.
Okay.
But this time, remind me, would you, Patrick? They had 16 million in GAAP profit.
Right.
What does that work out to in terms of the market cap, in terms of a PE ratio?
Oh,
Is it
yeah,
like
so,
below 400 or above 400? It's between 400 and 600 somewhere, no?
yeah, you would be better to answer that question than I would.
Yeah. And just remind us, what were the regulatory credits they recognized in order to achieve a $16 million GAAP profit?
Yeah, you can look that up in the letter. I don't have that in my notes.
350 some odd million.
354 million, right? 354 million. So what kind of financial engineering do you think went into producing that GAAP profit, about which David Einhorn had questions today? He said, how is it that operating 2 factories instead of 1, reducing the efficiency at Fremont because you have much lower production and hence you can't have absorbed costs as well, ramping up the Model Y, having a lower ASP because you're producing lower margin Model 3s. You had to cut prices and do a lot of more SR pluses, and you had a smaller number of X and S cars in the mix. And you had headwinds from foreign exchange of at least 2 to 3%, and yet magically your income doesn't, reflects the same gross profit as Q4. And he said, I'm starting to wonder about your income statement. You still haven't answered my question about your accounts receivable. I know Tesla makes a beautiful, lovely car, and I know you love it, but do you ever say to yourself, what is up with all this nonsense in their financial reporting?
So the regulatory credits, they announced that they were going to be all accounts receivable. They hadn't received any of them yet.
Interesting. What kind of deal are they making where they sell regulatory credits, but they sell them on credit? Do you think that they might be discounting the price to get somebody to go ahead and buy them on credit? I've never heard of that before. Tesla's always sold regulatory credits for cash.
Usually, yeah, but like right now, the other auto
Usually,
manufacturers are shut down.
Can you think of another? Is there another instance where they? No, it's a strange. Anyway, there's the financial statement. If anybody's proud of a $16 million GAAP profit, I don't understand why you'd be proud of it if the stock is trading at a price that's like cannot possibly. That profit cannot even come. That justifies a share price of $5 a share.
I mean, they fell off a cliff with the rest of the market as well. I mean, not only did their competitors that buy the credits shut down, they shut down as well. It's going to be a unique quarter.
Okay.
And even if they were not profitable, I don't think that would have this small amount of profit. It is a milestone that's notable, and you certainly are skeptical of it and have every right to be. But I don't think that I don't think that alone is driving the stock price.
Right. Were you bothered by the misrepresentations in the 10Q?
Certainly. If there's anything that's not accurate.
Could you just elaborate on that, perhaps?
Sure.
For my own disclosure, I have gone through financial statements on occasion, but I am well aware that a skilled accountant can hide things that I can't find. So, with that, please elaborate.
Here's what I'm referring to. So Tesla's liquidity is a concern to the investors, and Tesla said in its 10Q, it said we had a sheet, a table listing all the debt it has, and it says here are all the people who promised to loan us money, and here are the amounts they've promised that we haven't asked for yet, but they have committed to give to us, and it included in there $1.522 billion of loans from the so-called Chinese loans. And it said these are available to us anytime we want for general corporate purposes. That is absolutely false. They are not available for general corporate purposes. They can be used only by a Tesla subsidiary called Tesla Shanghai. And they can be used only to build the Tesla factory in China and to equip it and for working capital there. They are not available to Fremont, which is where the money's being lost because it has higher labor, it has higher parts. It's Tesla Shanghai, which is now building cars for China that Fremont used to build. Tesla Shanghai is about to start exporting cars as well. And so to say that that money is available for general corporate purposes is absolutely wrong. I mean, that was material misstatement. There's an omission as well about the so-called grant contract where Tesla has its land in China, where Tesla said, well, we have to achieve by 2023 a certain level where we have enough, we give China VAT tax, value-added tax from selling cars domestically equal to $X. But it neglected to disclose that it has to achieve a total production that is 3 times that amount for what's called target production in the translation from Mandarin of the agreement. That means that Tesla will be producing 3 times as many cars as it expects to sell domestically. It's going to be expecting to export somewhere between 150,000 and 200,000 years. It's going to become Tesla Fremont, and yet any money that they make in China, if they make any, is absolutely unavailable to the rest of Tesla. It stays in China under those agreements for at least 5 years. The Chinese government has Tesla wrapped up in a bow in China, and the rest of Tesla is going to be starving. And listen, if you want Tesla to succeed, and I know you do because you're a shareholder, you need to pay attention to these Chinese agreements. And you have Elon Musk last night praising China, and then criticizing the United States as a fascist nation because it has, shelter-in-place orders when China is welding people's doors shut. So I think as shareholders, you need to reckon with all that.
I guess one thing I would add, and I know that Ed Niedermeyer is kind of a dirty word in the Tesla fan community. About 10 years ago, back when he was when the Truth About Cars had its famous, I think, GM death, death count.
Deadpool, yeah.
They had death watches for all the
automakers. That's right. It had one for Tesla as well. He was not involved in either of them. But there was something very interesting when GM needed to lean on China for money, basically during the Great Financial Recession, 2009. Its partner SAIC got a golden ticket. Basically, it got a particular share for $85 million. It got very very favorable treatment, essentially. And soon GM was importing Buicks from China as part of the advantages that SAIC had. So without going into the no doubt extraordinary depth and nuances of the arrangement that Tesla has with Shanghai, it's not unprecedented for companies, needing or receiving a helping hand, particularly from China, to have certain, not golden handcuffs, whatever the opposite of golden handcuffs are, for a golden key, maybe, for the counterparty. So just for some historical context, that I just want to, it's not unusual for these kinds of constraints to be placed on folks needing Mr. Pooh's favor.
Yeah, we do it all the time here. Whenever we want to increase business, we want to increase business domestically, and we do everything we can to make sure it's domestic and not.
That's right.
Shipped overseas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah. So I want to emphasize that this isn't. It isn't. It's not unusual for Chinese-related organizations to get specific concessions when they're doing favors. I mean, China is kind of like the new United States, in that it's an even bigger market, by far the biggest car market. At some point, India, I suppose, will be even bigger than China with e-bikes. Just the nature of the game.
Good one, Matthew.
So I don't think the notable thing, and I'm going to channel Lawrence here for a second, is that the agreement is somehow unique or somehow special. I think his point, at least as I understand it, is that it's not good for Tesla America, and reflecting on the fact that it's potentially horrible for Tesla America is the thing that not a lot of people are talking about. Lawrence, am I close?
Exactly. The center of gravity of Tesla is moving to China. That's my concern.
Right.
And unless there's a lot more segment reporting where you can break out China versus the U.S., it's going to be hard to see that. But if you love Tesla, and I know Kacey does, and I know Patrick does, and I know people who drive Teslas, and they love their cars. They're fantastic cars. The Model S particularly, I think, is a great car. and they're proud of Tesla. But I'm just telling you, if you look at those Chinese agreements, it is becoming a Chinese company. China has written deals, and unfortunately, it's accelerated by this COVID crisis. It's going to give China even more leverage. And people need to focus on. I'm just asking you, as people who love Tesla, to focus on that, because Tesla is not long for Fremont the way things are going. China can build cars much less expensively. Tesla is moving its R&D to China. China has announced its plan is to become a place where things are not only made in China, but designed in China, where the United States is nothing but someone who supplies raw materials to China. And they would be very happy and will be happy to be exporting Tesla cars to Australia, to Japan, to South Korea, and to Europe. And that is going to devastate the.
Well, I'm going to take objection on the Europe statement. They definitely do want to get it out to Asia Pac, but the Fremont factory is mature. It's at capacity. There's little tweaks they can do to get more out of it. They're building a factory in Europe and in Berlin, and
Casey. Elon said that the factory in Fremont could do 500,000 cars easily and more with Alien Dreadnought. It's never come close. Last year it built 368, and this year it's going to build fewer. So it's way under capacity.
Right, but it's physically full.
United States.
They're putting in 2 more U.S. factories.
Wait a minute.
Nevada,
where's the money for those? You don't believe that, do you? There's no money for any other factory.
So one thing to add.
No,
I guess maybe
Russell
needs to be more of an active referee there with the whistle. One thing I will add for Kacey, and this is somewhat separate for the automotive industry than for most other industries, is that your overhead, your ongoing overhead costs, basically, they're cripplingly high compared to virtually every other industry. As a result, overcapacity just kills you. As an example, with the 2009 crisis, especially in the luxury segment, and I realize Tesla is very smartly going for the premium segment now, but I think Daimler or Mercedes car sales dropped by half and took years to recover after 2008. And so the fact that you have new factories coming online can actually be a negative, and the prudent automaker, and I realize there's ways to break rules and stuff, but you do not want to be in a situation where you have a factory, even if it's given to you for free, if you've got ongoing costs and can't run them at pretty much full blast. From about 2008 to like 2018, for example, Toyota got totally freaked out by that big recession, and they built 0 factories. They were like, well, we want to wait until we're actually running overtime consistently at a lot of factories before we start spending billions of dollars. Different if you have free money for incentives, and I generally favor, green, clean tech incentives, unlike Lawrence. But it is something to be aware of. You don't want to have that imperial overreach and try and go one factory too far, because that's the factory that will cripple you, basically.
Okay, if I may.
Yes, please, Russell.
No, can we go to another and maybe revisit China if we need to? Before I do that though, 30 seconds. Does anybody need to sum up?
Yeah, I would like to respond to that. So I don't think that growth in China is at the exclusion of the U.S. They can have a design center there. They can have factories there. They can have agreements with that government. That doesn't mean that they are becoming a Chinese company and at the detriment of the United States. They are growing, and they're growing. They're already talking about having another factory in the U.S. They're working on Giga Berlin right now. As a growing company, that doesn't concern me at all.
Okay. Fair enough. Kacey?
Same as I was trying to point out is that right now you're going to put all your money into the one that's almost done but isn't done. You got to put your investments there, and then as Berlin comes up, we're going to see a shift. It's going to look like they're becoming a German company for a little while. And then whenever the next U.S. vehicle factory comes online, I know you don't believe in New York, but if New York ever becomes a bigger part of the picture, we can expect to see them dump money into New York as well.
I don't believe in New York's going to make solar products. That's what I don't believe.
Well, it's making something. It may not make solar products, but it's making something right now, including something that Patrick will touch on later.
Matthew?
Yeah, I guess I'd say the prudent course would be to get to at least 80% capacity factor utilization of each factory and ideally be running north of 100%, using weekends before deploying more capital. Because again, this is not an easy to retrench from sector. If you wait a couple of years even, I bet you could pick up factories from other manufacturers who have to shut them down. And then they'd already have the labor pool in place. Everything's trained. Here in Canada, the GM is shutting down one of its auto plants. Oshawa, BYD picked up some of the guys. There are a couple other commercial van type of makers, electric commercial van type makers, who are eyeing that resource. So it doesn't always make sense to go greenfield if you can pick up brownfield on the cheap.
Lawrence, you get the final word on this for now.
Quickly, U.S. Tesla demand drop between 2018 and 2019 dropped off. Tesla's getting its lunch eaten in Europe now because the U.S. encouraged all these other people to come in with their EVs in 2020, not in 2019. It is the wrong time to build a new factory. And I'm concerned, and I just ask you guys to keep your minds open, read some of my articles about China published in the last week, and ask yourselves, how much longer will this be a U.S. company? Is not the center of gravity rapidly moving to China?
Okay, next topic. I'm going to skip some of these because we're talking about each of them for quite a while. One hope that I think will be less controversial. Was the Model Y rear casting. They had a picture of the Model 3 with its 70 parts and the Model Y with its 2 parts for the rear casting. And also a note how those 2 parts will soon become 1. And this is something that if you've been watching the Sandy Munro teardowns on MunroLive.com, he was very impressed with, and was just a great innovation that no one else in the auto industry is doing. And that was really cool to see. All right. Want to move on to the earnings call?
I'll just say about the Model Y, those were impressive pictures. I love those. Why has Tesla been bashful about revealing its Model Y order book? It's an expensive car. We're in tough times. It won't reveal its order book. What's the demand for those cars? None of us here know.
Right.
They got burned doing that with Model 3.
They sure did.
Pardon me?
They got burned?
It came up over and over on every one of the conference calls when the real focus should be on what they've delivered and what customers have paid for, not how many people have raised their hands saying they want one.
The TNC tracker is tiny on the Model Y. It's tiny. Just saying, I hope there's a market for it is all I can say.
Because
it's expensive.
Their biggest product.
Yeah, the crossover vehicle market is huge compared to the sedan market. So there might be some cannibalization of Model 3, but there was definitely going to be a lot of new customers added for Model Y.
Based on
the CUV market.
My counter to that would be that if you have like the biggest thing since the moon landing as your launch for the Model 3, I can't imagine many people waiting for a Model Y. I'm sure there are some, but in terms of what I've seen in terms of like Google search frequencies, Google Trends, the Model Y should be more, which should sell more than the Model 3. However, you have to factor in how many orders the Model 3 had previously consumed from that Model Y order book, unless you're assuming people are buying new cars every couple of years.
And certainly people that are leasing are doing that. There's some people who buy a new car every year, right?
Well, hopefully not every year for most people.
I mean,
they do cycle them.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
To be determined.
Yes, absolutely.
But
okay.
the company seems to feel that they're going to do gangbusters.
Yes.
The company seemed to feel there would be 1 million robo-taxis on the road this year too.
Yeah.
They're still sticking to that. I was listening to his explanation of it, and I'm curious how it's going to work, but they're still sticking to it.
Okay.
Elon said at the end of this year or next year, the robo-taxis are coming.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Yeah. Okay. So
he's never been late or forward.
And you know what? To his point, he has been late, and that's usually the defense is that Elon's just bad on timing, and he had copped to that. But that's not what a chief executive officer is supposed to be, is a bad predictor. They're not supposed to put out information that is materially incorrect, saying you're going to be 1 million robotaxis on the road in 2019, when in the middle of 2020, it doesn't look like there's going to be any robotaxis on the road this year.
He did say
That's
that
all.
he
Or
tried to go for
semis,
the 50%
or semis
mark,
in 2019, or
just
battery
so
swapping.
Yeah, so
Anyway,
all
something was
forward-looking
going on.
statements need to be taken with a grain of salt. Absolutely.
Especially if it's
So
those times.
look at results, not these things, because
Yeah.
But those are results, Patrick.
forward-looking statements are predictions about when things will happen that are unpredictable.
So
Which sort of gets us into the argument of, is Tesla a company that's based on selling stock or based on selling cars?
Selling sizzle or let me say Impossible Burgers, not steak. Okay, so they talked about in the call how Autopilot has new features that are rolling out with stop sign and stoplight support, and they're collecting about 1 million intersections per month, and soon to be 1 billion intersections per month. That's data that all gets collected and put back into their own neural network to train it better to recognize these. And that level of data collection is unprecedented in the industry and going to help improve their products.
Patrick, I have a prediction for you.
Sure.
I predict Tesla really knows its autopilot and FSD is hopeless. And the Chinese have something much better in the works. And you will see Tesla adopt the Chinese technology and shoot forward in the field, because right now it's a laggard according to all the analysts. Navigant Research puts them way in the back of the pack.
Yeah.
So, and
again,
I think the best thing they could do is abandon this garbage that they have and go with the Chinese system.
I don't think you are a neural network expert, and have you ever worked in that field? Okay, so I disagree with you.
Elon Musk is a neural.
I think Andrei Karpathy is certainly one of the best in the world, absolutely. And I have looked at what they're doing. I have looked at how they're developing it, and I think that they are ahead. Navigant Research disagrees with me, but it is an unsolved problem. So for anybody to say, oh, they're ahead or this is the best way to do it, when it is unknown how to be done, is ridiculous.
How do you feel about
if you
Tesla?
look at the Wright brothers,
testing.
when they were doing the flight, they were not the ones that were predicted to be the winners. I forget the guy's name because history's forgotten this guy. He was the one who had all the right credentials, and he was supposed to solve the problem, and the newspapers were following around predicting his success and when it was going to happen. And instead, 2 guys in a bicycle shop were the ones that solved it. So you cannot say that Navigant Research knows exactly who's going to be the right ones, or that such and such a technology is the way to do it, or China's ahead. Until the problem is solved, you cannot say who has properly solved it.
Yeah, if it's solved, then everybody would already be buying that particular product. It's not solved. You need a bunch of different ways to try and figure it out.
I want to ask a question, if I may.
Poor Matthew couldn't get a word in there.
I'm sorry, Matthew. Go ahead, please.
So I guess there was an interesting element to the argument there, which is that sometimes the person who's doing the bootstrapping and doesn't have the resources, whatever, comes out with the advance. But at the same time, in a few sentences earlier, you're saying they're collecting 1 million and 1 billion data points. So you're simultaneously arguing for the bootstrapped, no resources, and also saying that Tesla has the most data and is, the heavyweight 800-pound gorilla. So you can't argue both.
Sure, I just
did.
Casey's
I would
arguing
argue that Google does appear to have recognized stop signs for a number of years, as has Cruise and many others.
Right.
And so it is not, I don't know how many thousands or dozens of intersections they had to ingest per hour or per millisecond, but it is not groundbreaking to get stop lights and stop signs.
Okay.
Correct.
Patrick, I know that you understand more of the software behind this than I do. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah,
this is
neural networking.
This is your right. This is your field. So let me ask you this. I've heard a criticism of Tesla's neural net is that all this data that they're collecting is great. It's a wonderful number, but if it doesn't actually turn into something usable, that it's pointless, that it's just a number.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, miles traveled is not what's important. It's collecting the anomalies. It's collecting the things that
corner
are
cases,
significant,
right?
and that's why they have the system that they do, where they say, okay, we need to collect things where we predicted X and instead Y happened, and then those clips, assuming you have data sharing turned on, are what they get, and they're able to then feed those back in and improve their system. So even when you're not using the features in shadow mode, and it's able to make these predictions about what it thinks should happen, and then where it deviated from what the driver actually did. So, and those are all learning. That's you training the network by using the product.
So you believe that Tesla is using all this data and that it is important data.
Absolutely. If you look
Okay.
at how image recognition works, it's by feeding it data, labeled data, and making sure you have the right training set. And so that includes collecting all of these anomalies so that your training set doesn't. If you were just driving the same route all the time, you could get it really good. That doesn't mean that's going to then translate to some other route. So you need to have a vast array of data that takes into account all the different intersection styles, what angle they're at, where the sign is, whether or not it has a right turn only or a four-way stop sign, some other, whether it's occluded by branches or trees or flowers, or if it's in the fog, if it's got snow on it, all these things. You can put a little bit of noise in and really mess up the image recognition if you have not trained it to deal with that noise.
And even under perfect conditions, you can have one of those crazy ass stop signs, or not stop signs, but stop lights where they don't line up correctly and a human has trouble with it. And
Yes.
you'll find that the machine will do better over time at those unknown intersections as it approaches them than a human approaching that unknown will.
And isn't that why, like many people, not all people, integrate LiDAR into their systems? I think XPeng was even mentioning that.
Well, LiDAR can't read the color of the stoplight.
Right.
Blind it.
It can't see the brake lights.
It can
There's
see,
a whole lot of things. All of these cameras have limitations. Radar has limitations. LiDAR has limitations. And again, this gets back to until that you can't say that the solution must include LiDAR.
Right. Although if you could find a $5 LiDAR sensor, I bet you Musk will put them on there in a minute.
Yeah, if you want to install it in mass volume, it has to be affordable. Absolutely.
That's not a great argument, though. What we're talking about is something that works, not something that's profitable. Right? This is a motor vehicle that's carrying humans, and
right. But if
a $5 sensor,
if the $3,000 sensor doesn't work any better than the $25 sensor, why include it?
Are you making
cameras give you a lot of data. We've put a lot of art into cameras, and they're multi-spectrum, collecting multiple colors. LiDAR is active and a given frequency of what it is. It's not going to see brake lights when they come on or off, for example. They all have limitations. So yeah, we'll see which one wins.
I have a question.
Please.
Kacey and Patrick. So I see that Elon Musk and Tesla has said, who would like to beta test this new FSD feature that will recognize green lights?
But been doing it.
Well, where do the pedestrians and the other people on the road get to sign up to say, I don't want to be part of your beta testing. I don't want to be part of this.
If I run over a pedestrian,
beta testing an unproven program. No, what right do you have to put your beta testing on the road and endanger other people? It is reckless. It is consonant with the entire reckless rollout of this Autopilot.
On the car. The car is secondary to me.
If they were putting out unmanned
if safety
vehicles,
is primary to you, then why do you want to be beta testing something on people who haven't consented to it?
If they were putting out unmanned vehicles, absolutely, that would be a violation. But they're
what about
not.
the people we see falling asleep in their Tesla car?
There are people
for more
that
than
fall
45
asleep
seconds in a Tesla
any car and get into accidents. There are people who drive drunk. This is not
makeup and read the newspaper.
Right. So this has a responsible person, hopefully, behind the wheel. There are irresponsible people behind every car brand at various times. So if you're enabling it, that does not. Just by turning on these features, you do not abdicate your responsibility. This is not a level 5 system. It is a driver assist system. You are behind the wheel. It is your responsibility. If you have a license to drive, you should be doing it responsibly.
Right. So the pedestrians can't opt out, is what you're telling me.
I'll go ahead. Okay.
Hold on one second.
Matthew, 90 miles an hour either.
Hold on, Matthew.
So I just want to make sure. So everyone on this here is in favor of Americans being able to own as many AR-15s as they want, right? Because they will be responsible with them. and any consequence is a result of personal responsibility, as opposed to any possible consent issue or is something reasonably safe. Because I've heard this argument a lot from my rural relatives, and it sounds very familiar. Personal responsibility.
I'm not opposed to guns, but I mean, just like guns, you need to have a license and be responsible and like if you fuck up, it's on you.
Yeah, but the problem is Casey, if you fuck up, it may not be on you. It may be on 3 people that you run down.
Oh, I agree. No
Okay,
doubt.
so and you're a good person. You're going to feel horrible and all of that. But I'm saying that the beta test here doesn't just involve a responsible driver behind the wheel.
The car doesn't take over, though.
Anything that car could come into contact with. Right.
My hands are on the wheel. My feet are near the brakes. And if anything goes amiss.
Yes.
And many gun owners are as responsible as you.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, the thing about the argument about the people sleeping in the car, I mean, they're going to fall asleep anyway in any car. And if they do fall asleep in the Tesla right now, it will eventually just kick out. It'll stop in the lane.
Casey, I drive a car that has my eyes. Okay. If I use its lane keeping autopilot feature, it has a camera that focuses on my eyes. So if I take my eyes off the road, it disables it doesn't call it autopilot, but
Super
driver assist program. And so Tesla doesn't have that. Okay, we've seen videos of people falling asleep in Teslas for extended periods.
I've seen a guy put on fake eyeglasses and trick the Super Cruise.
So
if I'm walking in front of that guy's
Tesla
car.
does have the Model 3, right?
Yeah, they have a camera in the Model 3.
It does have driver monitoring.
It's
And
not
so I
activated,
had a discussion with a Tesla fan recently. Very, very nice guy, great guy. And my question was, well, many years ago when Tesla didn't have a battery shield, and it was determined that having a battery shield would improve safety for the driver and everyone else, they did the right thing. That was like my point of peak Tesla admiration. They said, we're going to fix this, no cost. Everyone come in, we'll fix this. And I asked my counterpart, okay, so is Tesla going to retrofit these other cars to put in this makes drivers safer driver monitoring system? And for some reason, apparently, Tesla didn't seem to be doing that, which was quite a change from a number of years ago.
All of the models currently use the same driver monitoring, which is torque on the steering wheel. The camera is not active on the Model 3 yet.
Correct.
So in that case,
the reason they're not doing that is they anticipate having full self-driving at some point where you don't even need a driver behind the wheel. So we've talked about that maybe not realistic in the timeline that they've proposed it, but that's the rationale.
Yeah, and then when they were trying out using the camera, it was giving them too many false positives or something to that effect that they decided it was not worth.
Then beta test it. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, next.
All right. So that was full self-driving.
I'm sure we'll come back to it.
So one of the other full self-driving related announcements was this had been rumored for a while. Full self-driving would be available by subscription. And now that was confirmed on this call. And the point there was that there are some people who would prefer to have it on a subscription service instead of buying it all at the $7,000 price tag it has today. And maybe when you're going on a road trip, you buy it, and then you have it turned off later. And so that was cool.
And the biggest driver to that one was that if you leased the car and you didn't lease it with the full self-driving, then you were on the hook for $7,000 instead of it just being your portion of it when you turn the car in. So now you can just rent the portion of the FSD that you need.
Does this suggest to you anything about the demand for full self-driving?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if the numbers are out. I think it's about 40% adoption rate is what I've heard. I don't know how accurate that is, but this might help increase that.
More people without than with, but yes.
Battery Day was teased multiple times. Right now it's tentatively scheduled for the 3rd week in May. There was also a discussion that it could occur in Texas or California, depending on what they're allowed to do.
How pissed off Elon is at Gavin Newsom?
Yeah,
California,
Texas probably open first.
Yeah. The next Gigafactory location will be announced within the next 3 months. That should be
What makes them gigafactories? Why is Berlin which isn't even out of the ground, a gigafactory. Why is Shanghai a gigafactory? Can we just call them auto factories, please?
Because
They're not gigafactories.
It measures gigawatt hours of production.
Well, that's Nevada, which is fine, but
Yeah,
that's
but
the cell
China
factory.
is
The rest of these,
also a cell factory. And
no,
Berlin
it is.
will
There's
be a
no
cell
cells
factory.
being made in China. When it
You can
becomes a
call
cell
them whatever
factory,
you want.
China.
It doesn't matter. It's just a name.
Okay, make up a name. Why do you guys, you know better, you're intelligent guys, why do you put up with this bullshit and go along with whatever Elon wants you to call it? Come on, you're smarter than that. Aren't you smarter than that? I know you're smarter.
It doesn't call it a gigafactory. It's got a high car output. The Chinese battery factory is nearly
Wait
complete.
a minute. This factory is putting out fewer cars than Toyota did back in the NUMMI days. Come on. Yeah, I know you're smarter than that.
Yeah, let's be Giga New York isn't putting anything.
Come on. Giga New York
But that
is a
one
gigafactory.
Also gigawatt hours of cells.
It's branding. It's like McDonald's, the Egg McMuffin.
No, this is a cult feature. This is a religious ritual. You have to call it what Elon says.
It'll be all right.
All right, come on, guys. I want to see you grow up and stop calling it gigafactories.
Well, the official name is Giga New York.
Onwards, Russell.
Yeah,
that's the name of the building.
You called it NUMMI when
New York, it doesn't produce a damn car. Come on, it doesn't produce batteries. It doesn't produce a car. You're calling it a gigafactory. What? How deeply into this guy are you that you have to use his names? Don't you feel silly doing that?
It's the official name of the building.
They made the building. They named the building, and so
I mean, like the Apple Loop is called the Apple whatever spaceship.
I am going to go with Lawrence here to the extent that, like, you know what? When they rename stadiums, fuck that. Okay, I don't play that game either, and I get it that Elon wanted to make the biggest factory on the planet. The problem is he hasn't really done it yet, and calling everything that he builds products in a giga is branding, and he's allowed to do that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to respect him more. That's all.
Minute Maid Park is still
I'm not
Enron
saying you
skills.
have to call it that either. Just like I can call it whatever I want, and that's what their branding is. I'm going with that.
Fair enough, Patrick. What do you got next?
All right, so let's see. Musk reiterated that they are not going to slow down on their investments. Many other automakers are pulling back.
They cut capex last year. They keep saying they're not slowing down. Every year they cut capex. How do you explain that?
So they just because they're being more capital efficient, they've certainly they over the last 15 months built the Shanghai factory, and now they are they've already announced Giga Berlin, and they've broken ground there, and they're about to announce
Giga Berlin would be producing in 2021. They haven't broken ground. They've flattened. They've cut down the forest.
Yeah,
and now they have a problem, don't they? They haven't done their engineering, and they haven't engineered for the marshy conditions in the sand, and they have to go back and submit a new plan for foundations, and everybody's waiting for them to do that.
I don't know. If you've ever been involved in even just a small home renovation, there are unexpected things that come up and have to be adjusted.
Nothing unexpected. Everybody does soil testing. Right.
Oh, yes. Okay, so. And so what? They're going to change their plans and adapt and adjust and do what they need to get it done.
They're going to delay it as long as they can, and they're not going to build that factory. I guarantee you they'll delay and delay and delay.
They put a lot of money in it to not do it.
Yeah,
there's no money. They paid for the land. That's all they've paid for. They're not going to. But it's bad enough to spend some money. They don't have the money to build that factory, and they don't have the demand in Europe. If you think they're going to be, they're not going to be producing a single car in 2021 like they promised. Mark it down.
We were also told that the factory in China wouldn't exist. There it is, a year later.
Not by me.
Yes,
I certainly never doubted it. Who told you the factory in China wouldn't exist? Wait. Casey, who said the factory in China wouldn't exist? Don't give me a straw man argument here. Come on.
No, there were
everybody.
We've heard this over and over. The skeptics saying that there will be no demand for EVs. They should stick with the luxury market. Their lower priced vehicles never going to have demand. They over and over everything that they've achieved.
They've lost money on it. They lost $862 million last year.
Yeah, we were being told that the China factory was a marshy swamp the whole time that the thing was actually being erected.
It was a marshy swamp, but everybody knew that nobody doubted they would build that factory. I certainly didn't. Come on,
you might not have, but there were plenty of people.
There were lots of people. There were lots of people who doubted the timeline. Numerous.
We had whole shows on
that's
it.
not the issue. So you know what? Again. is anybody in now looking at it going, wow, China was willing to throw a ton of resources and get this factory built and up and running? No, nobody's surprised at that, are they?
Right. Yeah.
How many weeks did it take them to build that hospital in Wuhan?
Weeks. It was done.
So again, I don't know that there are big differences that are worth arguing about, and sometimes there are little things that aren't so much. That's
right.
All.
Yep. So that factory. Let's see. Where were we? Yeah. So Tesla is continuing to develop new products and improve the ones that they have, lower their costs, improve their margins, while other manufacturers are canceling their EV programs or delaying them significantly. That is not Tesla's strategy. They're taking the risk and moving forward.
Well, they don't have a choice. I'm not. This isn't to refute your point, Patrick, but Tesla doesn't have a choice.
Yes, and
Tesla has
great.
one product, and they have to make it. So I mean,
yes, awesome. Yes,
no
and other manufacturers are giving them the room to dominate that market even more than they already do.
I wish they weren't.
Yeah, competition would be great.
I think, well, you are seeing competition in Europe, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think that if you had said that EV makers are delaying their EV programs, you would have been correct 5 years ago. I can't think of
Lincoln just pulled out,
delaying them recently.
Yeah, Lincoln was going to work with Rivian, and they're not anymore.
Yeah, there have been
Lincoln
announcements recently.
Listen,
Audi,
VW,
Amazon has Ford.
Right. No. Not anything wrong with Rivian.
Lincoln
was going to work with Rivian, and now Lincoln is not.
Okay, hold on. We got to go one at a time, guys. So Matthew, and then Kacey.
So you're right. So Rivian, backed by with an investment by Ford, 100,000 vehicle order from Amazon. Jeff Bezos, very smart fellow. The Ford also has its own electric truck program.
Yes.
In order to have the maximum compatibility, parts compatibility, like you're talking with Model 3, Model 3, Model Y, as VW has done to a great effect, it makes zero sense for Lincoln not to piggyback off of Ford's program. So Lincoln breaking up with Rivian, that's kind of to be expected. It would be weird for Lincoln to rely on an external party and not basically, queue into Ford's pipeline. Anyway,
that would be cool, but they didn't say they were going to switch to in-house. They said they're going to stop.
You can get more publicity coming from the tech sector. You get a lot more publicity by stretching things out. I once was at a company which had 3 grand openings and 3 ground breakings for the same building.
Lawrence, did you have something you wanted to add on that?
No, these guys we've covered it. It's good.
Okay,
thank you.
I appreciate everyone's restraint.
Next one. Musk was asked, why don't they just buy peaker plants and convert them to batteries and renewables rather than just selling them megapacks and grid level storage, energy storage? And I thought his response was interesting. He said, we hadn't thought about that. We have no plans to do that. Selling them batteries meets our goals and for encouraging renewable energy use. That was an interesting one.
I don't even remember that question.
Yeah. He said our brains are full.
Yeah. They have a lot on their plate with Roadster and Semi and Cybertruck and Giga Berlin and other things. So, yep.
I was curious what they were supposed to do with that. Buy the plant and shut it down and put solar panels out where the plant used to be?
Was that Nevada?
That's silly.
Yeah.
So one thing I will comment is that if you can just put up batteries, there's no sense to actually buy the peaker plant, which is losing money hand over fist anyway. Why would you spend even $1 extra on that? Wait for it to be shut down. Buy the land on the cheap, abandoned, again brownfield, and then just fill the sucker up with batteries if you wish. I would choose the current strategy over actually wasting money on something you're going to shut down. Let someone else do that.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's still an interesting question. Okay, and then the last one I have here before we go on to the divisive topic was they were asked about making home HVAC systems, and Musk just tweeted about this. He said it would be a really cool project, that they have some expertise for making efficient and quiet air conditioning systems for their vehicles, and they are looking at it, but again, that's not their priority right now with all the other things they have on their plate.
I think that's going to be their priority as soon as they finish with their ventilator manufacturing.
Ouch.
I mean, come on, it's always some bullshit from Elon Musk, isn't it? And you believe it.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
You believe it.
If they made it and it was a similar price to the other stuff, and it was drop in, I would buy it.
If they did, then I would too.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Sounds cool.
So I think in general, at that stage, you're less talking about HVACs, but in terms of maximizing your environmental benefit, you'd be looking at energy recovery ventilators, ERVs, of which we actually have a major industry supplier here in Vancouver, and
a water heater.
Right.
Yeah, water heater. Well, you can use heat pumps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
the question would be, is that more high margin than auto manufacturing? Like, you don't want to spread yourself too thin, because it's much more profitable to dominate one segment rather than say, well, we could do a whole bunch of things, as opposed to what is the smartest thing for us to do.
It would definitely not necessarily be versus auto. It would be, does this add to our home energy? Does it add to the solar? Does it add to the battery?
I'm sorry. Tesla has a home energy division. Patrick, how long have you been waiting for those power walls?
Patrick, where are the 1,000 installs? Not manufactured 1,000. Where are the 1,000 installs per week? How many total installs?
All the installers have been locked in their homes.
Promised by the end of 2019 would be 1,000 a week. How many? How many so far?
The installs were going to be in the U.S. and the U.S. is closed.
Total.
Yeah.
How many total solar tile roof installs has Tesla done? Do you know?
I've seen 15 or so, but still, the people have been locked in their house.
They promised 1,000 a week by the end of 2019. The bullshit never ends, and the people who love sipping it up lose their appetite for it, I guess.
Well,
come on.
This quarterly announcement, they just said they've completed 1,000 production,
but
there's
how
no
many
place to put them yet because there's nobody to put them on the house.
You know why? Because they're expensive, and because nobody wants to do it, and because nobody wants to buy it, and it's bullshit.
They redesigned
I
it
think
2 more
nobody
times.
is
Who has audited that number? Look, maybe total, you have a handful of installs. Why, Patrick? Come on, you're a smart guy. Do you believe this is a real product?
Well, the same thing they said about the Model 3. It took forever to get that thing up.
I never said that about the Model 3.
You did not have said it, but
Solar Roof is totally different than Model 3. Don't even try to play the game. You're going to compare. People badmouth Model 3, and that's why people can badmouth Solar Roof. Solar Roof is a made-up product. They still don't have a finished product. They still aren't producing it, and they don't have a way to install it. Also, to Lawrence's point, anybody here have any clue of what Solar Roof costs?
Well,
go ahead and raise your hand.
They've lowered the price. It's expensive.
Lower the price to what, Casey?
Was it was like half of what it was originally, which was more than the building that was going on?
Oh, sir.
And they've dropped the warranty. And
do you have any idea what that price is?
They quoted me, $50,000 on the latest version for my house?
50, at least, right? Which isn't half of what the original one was.
The original one was $220,000 for my house, and the house is only $100,000.
That's not just Solar Roof. That's something else.
No, I didn't buy it. I don't live in that house anymore. I'm renting it out. I'm not going to do that for my tenants.
Patrick has a Solar City roof, and it works marvelously, and it's wonderful. And I'm not. Nobody here thinks I'm against solar. What I'm against is wrecking product categories. And that has been my concern with Elon in the last few years. Not Tesla, with Elon, is destroying credibility in product categories. Mm-hmm. And aside from municipal battery stuff, which Tesla has done marvelously on, Tesla has zero credibility in home energy. Zero.
I will note on that product. Sorry, we have our little doctors and nurses stuff going on in the background at 7 p.m. Sorry. With respect to that credibility, one of the Q affiliated writers had noted that alone among automakers, Tesla's real world range from what car and other sources was considerably lagged everyone else in the sector, and the only ones who didn't lag were basically Nissan, Renault, like the Zoe, the very super budget. And so it is a hindrance to have people say, well, I don't get the range I'm supposed to get in my electric vehicle, when we want everyone to have electric vehicles. And so having one player have, it's like, well, I kind of need to have this fudge factor if I'm not in sunny California weather. It holds it back, because we had a whole bunch of, we had to have tons of conversations on EV infrastructure outreach. Well, what if you don't get the range? They overpromise. It is harmful sector-wide. Just want to relay that.
I want to just pick up on that. I think Matthew Klippenstein makes some great points, and I think Elon Musk is holding back the adoption of efficient cars. But the me, especially like the Volt, and I think that Elon Musk is, with all his hyper promises that never come to anything, and all his nonsense, is going to hold you guys back. And now, you guys, you're blind to this, but he's moving his shop to China. Pay attention.
But you can't advertise another
he's not
number than
helping
the EPA number in the United States. You have to use the official numbers if you're going to advertise your fuel economy.
Right. You can argue that those tests should be different, but those are the EPA test result numbers.
Read the R.D. Barris article. It's clear Tesla's gaming the EPA results. They get to do
Ford
their
got in
own
trouble for doing that
testing.
too. Like they were taping up door cells. And
Tesla should get in trouble for doing it. Okay,
but it doesn't
Tesla's
make it right.
They will.
Yeah.
Well, you're hurting your brand, guys. You need to hold Elon to account for this instead of apologizing for him. Then you help EVs.
Right.
If you guys thought doing that, I would be upset. Yes. If we have no proof on it,
Just no.
Read the R.D. Barris article at Seeking Alpha. It absolutely lays out test after test where Tesla's gaming it, and they come well below what they claim, and the other manufacturers come above. So there's no explanation for that, but that they're gaming it. Okay.
Patrick, why is that?
And
Why
you need to call them out.
Why is what now?
Why are you shaking your head?
Oh, so the EPA tests are what they are, and there are plenty of people that can get those results, and there are people that drive with a lead foot and have a lot more fun and come in below that number, and your mileage may vary. It's right there.
Patrick, if you read the article, if you read the R.D. Barris
I don't
article,
care about reading
every
anything
test
on
done.
Seeking Alpha. Forget it. That
You know
whole site
what?
is worthless.
You know what? That's such a stupid attitude. That's a dumb attitude. He takes tests other third party, lines them all up, and shows you the results. For you to just write off the entire site because you don't like some of the bearish stuff on it is just, that is willful blindness of the most pathetic sort. Come on, you're smarter than that. Open your eyes to all.
The thing is, with the fuel economy test, the EPA opens their book. You can go and rerun the test in your own lab, and they're going to come out with the same numbers. If they don't, then you need to report it to them so that it can be addressed.
Casey, have you read the article?
No.
R.D. Barris, please go read it, guys. And then if you read that article and you still believe Tesla is not gaming the system, let me know, because there's no way you can read it and not conclude that.
So actually, there is one way.
To be clear, what I heard,
you could conclude that, and that is that there is a deficiency in Tesla's engineering or modeling. That is probably a worse situation than Tesla's gaming the system. But what is it that Tesla is lacking that third-party testers are finding this gap? Just to point out to what Montana was saying, and I guess my experience going from like peak Tesla love, like they're going to protect customers with that battery shield, all the way down to today's terrible situation for me, is that if you don't push back from the friendly side, then every little corner cutting will get worse. It's like if you let Augustus Caesar do whatever he wants, one day you wake up to Caligula, right? And then talking about fascism on an earnings call, that's not quite Caligula territory, but that's pretty bad, right? Like no one signed up to be a Tesla fan, an EV fan, only to have their hero like come out like this, I don't know, stormtrooper dude.
So back to the vehicle rating for a second.
Yeah,
so every time I put in a trip, you can go to the trip meter and it shows you what you would expect based on how the vehicle is rated. And if I drive conservatively, I can easily beat that. So that is based on the EPA rating, and I can do better than that. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it is gamed. I don't think it is fake. It is not that this is an impossible number and then Tesla's faking the whole system, because every time I drive, I can see that. If I put in a trip of any significant distance, it's easy to do better than the EPA rating.
Yeah, I've
So
been into
I
fuel
think
economy
that
longer than
that's
I've been
probably
into Tesla
for the-
because I started with fuel economy. When did we meet, Russell? And and like back when I was in my Prius, when I was in the Honda, when I was taking those trips in Ford, I was really disappointed that Ford was cheating on the test.
Right.
Fuel economy for me, you do the EPA, and then after that, well, let's go hypermile. Let's go beat the number.
And so I accept those. Those are valid data points, right? I'm sure you're absolutely truthful. But what I will say is that you're arguing from anecdote. And the problem with arguing from anecdote is that someone somewhere is going to, lose weight on the magic bean diet. And you need, the third party testing, or consumer reports type stuff is our best way, or with these drug trials, randomized double blind testing. You need some way to make sure you're not taking one anecdote and then, going forward.
Yeah, I
Fully
use
agree,
the other
fully agree
countries'
that
fuel
your
economy
mileage may
tests as
vary.
well. They're all consistent. They're done in labs.
Right. Yes, those are controlled tests that I'm able to reproduce in my results. So that's more than an anecdote.
That's all I'm saying. I accept. I'm sure that many people can exceed their fuel economy. I certainly can in mine. When you drive a very low-powered 1992 Nissan Sentra for 10 years, you get used to being gentle because that's the only mode it has.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now with winter tires on, even so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fun time.
So someone else can take this one. Go right ahead.
So this is where I say that
Patrick.
yes, even though I'm a fan
you've done such a wonderful job,
enjoy the
Patrick.
work of Musk, I don't agree with him 100%, and I'm very disappointed in what's been going on here.
And I'm very hopeful that from the supportive side, you can get constructive feedback, because there's no freaking way that Montana Skeptic is going to convince him to rein back some of that insane stuff. It has to be friendly voices saying, dude, you're kind of going a bit far here. Yeah, and I'm very hopeful that, you can be a part of that, that process.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people saying you're gonna use them as a source. What the hell are you doing, dude? And then you see the meme I like is it's from The Simpsons. It's Elon Musk, and then somebody's shooting him, and then it says weird internet fanboys jumping in front of the bullet.
That's right.
Those guys disappoint
Elon
me.
Musk, weird internet fans, and then legitimate criticism or something.
Exactly, that's the one. And I mean, I'm not a rabid fan, so I mean, I appreciate the work, and he's doing a lot of good stuff. But here, I'd like for him to leave it to epidemiologists, or at least use a source that's not going to immediately get him lashed out.
I think you're right the first time, Kacey.
And I think that's
I appreciate that you said that. I appreciate that you said that. Come on, Patrick.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I disagree with Musk on this. His comments about ending the shelter at home are going to get people hurt, get people sick, and I think he's on the wrong side of history here. However, I'm not surprised. If he has goals, and that includes having the factories running and producing products, so it's not surprising. He's also very vocal libertarian, so he doesn't like the nanny state, and this is the government telling people what they can and cannot do, and he was very vocal about give us back your goddamn freedom. So he's allowed to have an opinion. I just completely disagree with it.
Yeah, I mean, right now we don't have enough testing.
So thank you so much. The kids are back, so thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Matthew.
Bye.
Lawrence, this is your chance to pick up the gauntlet and
Well,
take it easy, Matthew. Thank you.
The great libertarian who's collected $6 billion plus in subsidies from the United States and now wants to call it a fascist state. Okay, look,
it's on brand.
The guy opined on January 31st that it was no more harmful than a common cold. The same day that travel ban was announced. Is that a coincidence given how much he has to dance for the Communist Chinese Party? I don't think so. He then doubled down and said it's a panic. And but I will say this: he's a hypocrite of the highest water. On the other hand, I think that he has a point. This is a discussion. People should listen to all voices in this debate. It's not clear what the right solution is to this COVID crisis, and at least he's gotten people who were so convinced that the shelter in place and shutdown is the right approach to consider other voices. I think that it's a hard problem. You have to walk a tightrope. We have a lot of uncertainty about testing, about immunity, about solutions to it, and about the costs of doing it versus not doing it. So he started a conversation, and that's useful. And so I give him credit for that.
Yeah, but it must be taken cautiously. I mean, we don't want the 1918 second wave. We have not enough testing. And,
Believe me,
and
I don't want it either. And
Exactly.
you know, Dr. Musk needs to be careful about professing to be such an
Yes, he
expert
does.
in epidemiology. Yeah.
Then the other problem is that yes, it may be your choice, but depending on your employment situation, most of the states I've been in have been right to work. So at the point that you decide you're going to stay inside, you have no income. No, like your safety net that we have now isn't that great, but
No, as I
it's
said,
completely gone. Yeah.
I think, Casey, it's a difficult trade-off, and
Oh, yeah.
we have to acknowledge there are always trade-offs with these policies, and so Musk has people talking about that, and
Yeah.
the guy does get people talking about stuff, and he gets people who are committed on one position to consider another, and that's one of the great virtues of him, and I credit him for that.
Yeah, the only problem I have with it is that on this one, it's not like where if you buy the wrong car, you've wasted some money. There is no second chance if we get this one wrong, and so I hope that he can defer to better studies, people who are actually experts in the field, get them talking to each other, and then maybe come up with some more solutions. Because
We're on the same page. I want
Yeah.
him to stop pretending to be a doctor or
Exactly.
an epidemiologist or a respiratory therapist or a
yeah, because he was talking
ventilator
about that drug, and the next thing you know, our president's talking about the drug, and then there's this old man and his wife taking the fish tank cleaner. It's like,
To me, it was like, you know, this cognitive dissonance where suddenly Musk lines up with Trump. I confuse the two of them. I frequently call one the other because you have, as I say, blind hatred running headlong into blind love. And it's odd. And so people are really struggling with a lot of cognitive dissonance here. I see good and bad in Musk, and I see good and bad in Trump. More bad than good on both sides, I confess. But the conversation has started, so that's a positive thing, I think, right?
Yeah.
Are we good here, Russell?
I think we all agree.
Let's
Go ahead, Lawrence.
I want Kacey and Patrick, who are Tesla fanatics. Understandably, they drive a car that's a great product from an innovative entrepreneur. I want them really to focus hard. In my vanity, I'll say, go read about China, two of them, and ask yourself, where is this company going? Is it the best thing for me as a shareholder? And is it the best thing for people buying the cars? And just think about those things. And maybe you'll stay right where you are, and that's fine.
Sure.
they could certainly stand some more attention on the service department. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, they're far from perfect, but they are doing things that no one else has ever done in the industry. They're driving the whole industry in new directions. They're getting us off the status quo. They're as you said, highly innovative and make exciting products. I'm very happy to be a shareholder and associated with that.
Okay.
And I can't wait till there's more viable competition, because that'll be awesome, because it will keep them honest and it'll give us more viable options that are like I could pick, like, oh, this one looks better. Oh, this one drives better. All right, now I have one choice.
Have you driven the Audi? I have. It is a fantastic. I mean,
it looks great, and the people I've heard that drive it, it's awesome. But I can't go from here to California with the car without having to plan it very carefully right now.
I hear you.
Right.
I'd like to be able to have that as an option, though.
And for a lot of early Tesla buyers, that ability is something important. But for a lot of car owners in the broader sect, that's not necessarily an overdriving need. As the point that we've made on What Drives Us for years, how many miles does the average American drive every day?
Right.
But
you
when
know
you're a
that
one-car family, it needs to be
exactly.
a 9% car.
They buy their car for emotional reasons, and emotional reasons includes that road trip that they want to be able to do, even if they do it every 5 years.
Right. I understand that, again, but I don't necessarily encourage people to act foolishly.
And I agree,
Right.
but those long road trips are an active part of my actual use of a car. I mean, I take them every few months.
I know you definitely do, and I'm a huge road trip advocate. I get that.
Yeah.
Look at Alex Roy, who drives from like Pittsburgh to New York constantly back and forth. You know what I mean? Like he loves
Right.
the driver assist features in the Model 3 and all of that. So I get
Yeah.
that. But again,
Twice I've driven down from Portland to San Diego and back, and that's a great road trip.
never once stopped at my house.
That's true.
And this is why I like the idea of EVgo, ChargePoint, and Electrify America, because now that does open it up so that everybody else has these options. But until it exists, it's really hard.
I want to redirect the argument that I often see in public, and it's often coming from Tesla fans, Tesla partisans, that says, well, you don't have the supercharger network. It's not a good car. You can't go on a road trip. It's not a good car.
It could be a good in-town car, yeah.
Yeah, so I totally agree. That's a problem. There are plenty. I had a Nissan Leaf for 7 years, and it was not a great road trip car, but that's not what I used it for. Mm-hmm. And just like if I bring a convertible to help a friend move, that's not going to work very well. I should have brought a truck. You buy a car for what you need it for, and you use it for what it works best for. Yeah. So that doesn't mean it's a bad vehicle just because it doesn't meet a certain need that you may not even have. So buy the right car for you for what you need. There you go.
And that's why there needs to be more choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Who didn't get to say something they wanted to say? Because I'm wrapping this bad boy up.
I've enjoyed this a lot, and I thank Kacey and Patrick for putting up with my emphatic points. You know, we all get a little emphatic.
It was very fun.
And Russell, thank you for directing traffic. It was not easy at points.
You guys were pretty well behaved, and I just want to see everybody get a chance to have their thing, because all of you have good things to say. I know. I read your stuff all the time, Lawrence, and you know, Patrick and Kacey, they got to put up with me. I got to put up with them at least once a week. So. No, but seriously, is there any gaps, any holes? Patrick?
I think we're done.
Casey?
Privileged to be invited in. Thank you. Sorry, Casey.
Oh, that's all right. I was curious when the line dropped. It didn't seem coincidental to me.
It was definitely not coincidental.
I think somebody pulled his plug.
Yeah. Okay, Lawrence, I'm sorry. Any final last shout?
Do you guys think Tesla's going to raise capital soon? And was it a smart thing for Elon Musk to tell Gavin Newsom he's a fascist if he's trying to get the plant open back up again?
He always says they're not raising capital, and next week they do. So probably.
It's sort of like when Trump says, "Oh, that person's not going to get fired," and then 3 days later, yes, they're going to raise capital
3 days ago.
And he can piss off Newsom all he wants. It's the county that's shutting him down.
Mm-hmm.
And the 6 counties, Bay Area counties, already said no, nothing until the end of May.
So one thing I do like about Musk, even if what he says isn't always the smartest thing to say in a moment, because it's what he is thinking. Just like his taking Tesla private. He wanted to take the company private, and that really got him in trouble. But it was what he was thinking about and trying to make happen. It might have been completely unrealistic and might have been the wrong way to present it, and the SEC certainly thought so. But it was honest.
See, I disagree with you. That was dishonest. However, his opinions about wanting to open back up again are honest. And so today, instead of like being apologetic, he doubled down.
So I think it was honest because Tesla was a publicly traded company, right? And with that comes a lot of disclosure responsibilities, stock worries, short selling, and other things that were just really driving him nuts. And I think he just was thinking, like, I don't have these problems with SpaceX. God, I wish I could. I'm not. I think he was thinking, I wish I could just take this public and private and not have to deal with this.
Then he shouldn't have lied and said he had funding secured with the only contingency being shareholder approval, should he?
I think that he might have had it and then he scared the Saudis because they didn't want to be public, and it ended up saving his ass.
He might have had it. Where's the evidence of that? He's had so many lawsuits where he needed to produce that evidence and can't. Come on, he was lying.
I know.
Come on, you guys need to deal with reality.
I do not think he was lying. That was my point.
Look at all the
companies wanted to go
Patrick,
private.
Until you guys are willing to call him out for his lies, you're going to get more of them. And the more you get, the
explain
worse
why that
shape
was
this.
not a lie.
It's not. It was no funding secured. There was no binding agreement. Nobody had agreed to do that. The board of directors had said, "We will not do this deal. We do not like it." The Saudis had not agreed to do it. Have you read the opinion from Judge Edward Chen right there in the United States District Court, Southern District, Northern District of California, who just wrote an opinion about this very issue, going through all the evidence? Of course Musk lied. It's as clear as could be. And a very liberal federal court judge agreed completely. Come on, guys, stop defending the indefensible. You want to help Tesla? Don't defend the indefensible. Call him out, hold him accountable, and you're going to have a better company and a better car and a better chance of keeping an American car company in America, because guess what? It's headed to China unless you guys start taking responsibility for governing this guy. It's your job. You're the shareholders. Start speaking up.
Here's the thing for me. If Elon Musk was a CEO of some kinky little sports car company that made gas cars and whatever, sold X number of them, and everybody loved him because they were weird and he was funny, and he went on the Joe Rogan show and he said crazy shit on Twitter, I could give a flying fuck what Elon Musk said. Sadly, the only electric car company mass producing electric cars is run by a guy who, in my opinion, is a shitty CEO. And that's what bothers me, because I
would
want
say the
Tesla to
results
work.
speak otherwise.
I'm sorry?
I would say that the results speak otherwise.
You mean
to his
9 straight years in a row of losses?
I mean the products that they're
row?
producing and the growth that they have.
But no, they're shrinking. Their year-over-year growth is now shrinking. Their revenues are shrinking. You're lying to yourself. Look at the statistics. They are shrinking right now. Okay, Q1. If you look at the 12-month trailing average of revenues and deliveries, they are on a downhill slope here.
Well,
Come
went
on.
from
$100,000
cars to $30,000 cars.
I don't
and they're
care.
selling more of the
They've
$30,000.
never made a profit. They came out with this car that had all these orders, and they lost $862 million last year. Guys, deal with reality here.
This is the same
Come
stuff
on.
we said about Amazon, and look where they are.
I never said
Absolutely.
A, Amazon made money a hell of a lot sooner than Tesla did. B, it's really growing. It's not shrinking, okay? Tesla's revenues declined for 3 straight quarters. That's never happened to them before. Now, come on. Deal with reality. Deal with reality. You're believing things that aren't true. Why? You guys, I'm looking at you. You're intelligent. I know you love the company, but until you deal with reality, nothing gets any better.
Well, like, look at the Model 3 in China. This whole quarter was all Standard Plus. It was not a single, well, they did sell more than those, but all they produced there were the cheap car. They didn't make any of the performance or the long range or the dual motors. It was all the cheap car.
That's the one that gets the subsidy.
Well, there's that, but when you go your revenue, you're going to make less cash per car.
What's the addressable market in China for a car that costs more than 350,000 yuan? It's tiny.
Yeah, but so as they shift, I would hope that that's why the price is dropping for the revenue. If you're making less per car, right?
With the crisis we're in, unfortunately, you're going to see things getting worse, not better. I mean, there's a big demand crisis right now. People who had big portfolios a few months ago don't anymore. People are afraid. People have lost their jobs. It's a really tough time for a lot of people. They're not going to go out and buy the expensive cars.
A lot of people can't afford any car right now. And thankfully, they don't have to go anywhere, because that would really present them with a problem.
No, that's not thankful. I wish everybody had somewhere to go right now.
I mean, I wish they did, but I'm saying that it's a good thing that they're going together and not, I have to go somewhere and I can't afford a car.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some shout outs and go home. Casey.
I just produced a video. I promised you yesterday. It arrived. I did a deep dive into Tesla software update 2020.12.6. And I didn't just get in the car and not read the instructions and say, oh, why is it stopping at the green light? Or why can't I go faster than the speed limit on this tertiary road? And then I go into some of the stuff that folks didn't look at. Like, I didn't see anybody look into the changes of the smart summon feature. Okay, so the Tesla backseat baller did touch on it, but he's in Canada, so it doesn't count because they have a different version of the software than we do. And so I go into things like that because in the previous version, my Tesla Smart Summon nearly caused a crash, and so I wanted to see is it gotten better? Did they roll back whatever they did to make the car drive like a dick? And they did.
Your car drives like a dick. Good.
Yeah.
That might be the show title.
So that's at youtube.com/Kacey Green. That's KACEYGREEN. And my language is very much PG on my videos because who knows if it's going to show up in a classroom.
And that's why we exist, Casey, to give you a place to say my car is a dick. Yeah. Mr. Connor?
Sure. If you like this deep dive on what drives us into Tesla, then you might enjoy the Tesla Life, our sister show with our buddy Mark Coughlin. Casey and I are usually on there, and you can find that at the youtube.com/the Tesla Life #1.
Always a good show to check out. Do check out. And good follow on Twitter as well, at the Tesla Life. Mr. Fossey.
So
as our guest, this is your I'm sorry. Go.
No, I've talked about my own articles and encourage Kacey and Patrick to take a peek, and I know they will. So I'm more interested in looking at what Kacey just put up to get a picture into his world, which I need to do, and to look at what's it called, the Tesla Life. About time for me to educate myself a little bit on Patrick's world. It never hurts to dip your toe into the pool of your neighbor and see how the water feels. So that's what I'll be doing. And I want to thank you, Russell, for inviting me on. It's been fascinating, and your panelists have been brilliant and had interesting points and been fun to talk to. And I thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. And special thanks to Kacey and to Lawrence, for whom it is 10:30 at night. Patrick and I, luckily, we still have sunlight from the real sun. You guys are already like it's sleepy time. So yes. I so much appreciate you guys staying up late to do this special show. And Lawrence, of course. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. You can find Mr. Fossey on Twitter. And you know what? You changed your handle, though, didn't you?
Well, there's a story behind that, but you have to look at Montana Skeptic. But if you Google Montana Skeptic Twitter, you'll find it. Yeah.
You'll find him, and do find him. He's a wonderful follow, and even if it's just dip your toe in the pool of the other side, if you don't agree with him, Lawrence's stuff on Twitter is always good, and even if you don't agree with it, it's good. So that's something I don't say about a lot of people, but I definitely mean it. So thank you for that.
In an hour and a half, Mr. Michael Manring CD comes out.
Ooh.
Yeah, his album is out. So as always, thanks to Michael Manring for our theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Tomorrow on Bandcamp, search Michael Manring, and you can buy his album there, and all the money goes to him. Bandcamp is donating all of the money to their artists tomorrow. In fact, go to Bandcamp and buy something from anybody, any of your local artists, okay? Spend $1, spend $10, whatever. Support local music. It's super important. You can do that at Bandcamp, or you can go to manthing.com and find the other places you can buy Michael's new record. Follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/whatdrivesus. Please subscribe. Please hit that little bell for notifications so that when this show posts in about half an hour, you'd be notified and you get to watch it right away. You don't have to wonder, what the hell did they do for 90 minutes? Huge thanks to Patrick Connor, Kacey Green, and Lawrence Fossey. And, of course, Matthew Klippenstein, who had to bail early because he has a family. Thanks,
guys. Thank you.
And as always, thanks to each and every one of you for watching. You guys are the reason we do the show. Tune in next week and find out what drives us.